So 2020 has thrown a lot of musicians a big curveball, and it's been really curveball after curveball. I remember when we first started in this, we didn't think it would last, but maybe a couple weeks, and then a couple weeks turned into maybe a couple of months, and then here we are almost 9 or 10 months later, and I'm doing my first gig out of town since February. So I'm really thankful for the opportunity to be able to play with some old friends of mine, but I've got to get a lot of things packed. I've got some practicing I need to get done as well. There's a lot of things I need for this gig, and a lot of things have just kind of shifted, which is something else we'll talk about too. So I'm going to walk you through how I prepare for a gig in this video. Not only what I pack to make sure I have all the things I need to have a good gig, but also to prepare for redundancies and why you need to always be prepared regardless of the situation, how to be able to prepare musically even in what seems like spare time or driving time, and such as that. So stay tuned and let's see if we can get this down to just a few cases. Okay, so for this gig in particular, I'm actually not taking my amp. They've requested me to go direct, so I am going to take my pedal board here, which is built on the mono. I don't remember exactly which size it is, maybe the club. It's basically the size of a PT Junior, about 18 by 13. And I'm also taking my Kemper, so I'll be taking the Kemper remote, Kemper head. I was originally going to be playing electric and acoustic on this gig. Now I'm switched over to just electric, so I'm going to take both my Suhr Classic S and my Gibson ES339. And the plan is going to be to get Kemper and remote in this Pelican case here. This will be for my pedal board and some accessories, cables, things like that. And then this is my Reunion Blues. This is actually a dual electric case, which I have showed on this channel before, and that is what both electrics will be going in. As usual, I'll always have my mono flyby that I'm going to take with me, as well as my laptop and a few things to get some work done. But let's see if I can get all of this in these cases. So one of the first things I like to do when I'm getting everything ready to go is unplug any cables, whether that's power or signal cables, or for something like the Kemper, having a specialty cable like the Ethernet cable that it requires to connect the remote. I like to disconnect all of that, look at it all in front of me. So I have those cables here. I've got things unhooked from guitars, things like straps, and on my Strat in particular, the tremolo arm and things like that. Usually, in pretty much all my cases, I have redundancies. So I will have extra strings, extra picks. Sometimes I'll even have an extra 1/4 inch or two stashed in cases, but without counting on those, because I want those to truly be backups. I want to be able to visually see everything that I need. So in this case, I need to have my pedal board, my Kemper remote, my Kemper head, and I need to have a way to connect those. So I've got my two 1/4 inch cables that I know I need for that. I've got power for my Kemper, power for my pedal board. Again, the specialty, the Ethernet cable here. I've got one strap for one of my guitars here, and I've actually already got the other in the Reunion Blues case. And I've got extra strings both in the mono case and the Reunion Blues. I use 2 different gauges for these guitars in particular, so I use 11s and 10s. I've got a set of each in this, and I also keep some stashed in my backpack with my cutters and winders. I also have spare slides, I've got spare picks and things like that, so I should be good to go. So now it's just a matter of getting everything in the appropriate cases. Again, for this, I'll be able to easily put the guitars in this dual case, which will go on my back like a backpack. I'll be able to have my mono thrown over my shoulder since it's got this thick strap here, and I can carry the Pelican in the other hand. So all in all, this should be a one load in, so I don't have to come back out to my car or anything like that. So should be pretty efficient. Let's see how it goes. So it's always a good idea to have your name on your cases. In this case in particular, I haven't labeled it. I will usually put my name, either my cell phone number or email, and what's in the case. Now, this is my Kemper and remote, so I'm just going to label this with my name and what's in it. Now, this won't prevent people from stealing your stuff, but since a lot of musicians use Pelican cases and similar cases, it's really easy to get things mixed up, and it's just always a good idea to have your name on your stuff. That way, if you do leave it somewhere on accident, then the venue or someone else there can get in touch with you and hopefully get you back your case and your equipment. So another thing I like to do when I'm getting prepared for a gig is to make a playlist with the music on it. So in this case, I know the songs pretty well. I've been anticipating this gig for a little while, so I've been listening to them a lot. But I was going to be doing some acoustic and some electric, primarily doing acoustic and vocal stuff, but I've now been switched into the role of electric player since one of the guys is now out sick. So I'm going to be listening to the songs with a new ear. Instead of focusing on what kind of harmonies and stuff I'm going to be doing, I'm going to kind of apply the same chords and Nashville number system that I always just kind of have running in my head when I'm listening to songs, kind of analyzing what parts have what, but I'm also going to be listening for prominent electric parts and be thinking about what the other electric player might be doing. I want to know the songs well enough that if I hear him all of a sudden taking what might be the dominant electric part, that I can just swap back to chords, or if I don't hear him taking the prominent electric part, I can swap onto that. So I've got about a 4-hour drive or so ahead of me, so that's what I'm going to be doing the majority of this drive. About midway through the drive, I'll usually switch to a podcast or just some different music just to kind of cleanse my ear a little bit before going back to it and listening with fresher ears. Well, I'm about 30 minutes in, got gas, got food, and realized I left my camera bag at home. So, looks like we're going to be stuck with this lens and microphone and this battery for the remainder of the weekend. Can we make it last? We'll see. I'll try to get the important stuff, keep the chit chat like this to a minimum. So, see you guys later. All right, it's the next morning. Got in late last night, hung out for a few hours, went to bed, got up, showered, going to get coffee, going to get breakfast and stuff now. But something changed on this gig, and I think this makes for a very, very interesting point, especially if you want to be a professional musician or you are a professional musician and you're trying to figure out how to diversify your skill set. So I was actually picked for this gig to play electric guitar on one song, but then everything kind of shifted and they wanted me to still do electric on that one song in particular, but they wanted me to also do acoustic guitar and vocals for the show, which is completely fine. I'm completely confident in that, and in some ways that's easier than me having to learn a bunch of specific guitar parts. However, 2 days ago, that completely changed because one of the guitar players may have been exposed to COVID-19 and wasn't feeling well, and so he's actually out. So now I'm over on electric for the entire show. This brings up two interesting points. The first is being a diverse musician. I like to say be a jack of all trades and a master of one. Not a master of none, a master of one. Have your one thing that you're really well known for, that you spend the most time on. For most of us, that's our primary instrument. But also be diverse in your skill set so that you can, if needed, land other gigs with your other skill sets. So for me, that's singing, playing acoustic guitar, programming, things like that. It doesn't have to be just another musical instrument or singing, though. If you're a great tech guy or you know sound really well, people will like to have you around, especially for road gigs when things can and will go wrong often. And the second point is really to know the music well enough that you could, if needed, swap over to said instrument. If people know that you play guitar, but that you also play bass, and for some reason something like this happens and the bass player's out, then they would probably want you to be able to swap over to bass. Now, if all you've done is practice a few little lead lines and you haven't really analyzed the music, that's going to be difficult to do. But if you have a good method for learning and internalizing music, both the structure and things like that, people will throw you a little grace if you're having to switch to a completely different instrument. But it's always good to be able to do that in a moment's notice if needed. So I'm going to go get coffee, then I'm going to go to rehearsal. This camera still has pretty good battery, I think. I'm going to try to make it last for the next 48 hours or so. So stay tuned. All right, so I'm actually back from rehearsal. It was pretty long. We had a lunch break. Now it's like 3:30 and I just go back to my buddy's house where I'm staying, and I'm gonna go in and actually practice and work on doing some other stuff. I didn't get any footage from rehearsal. Frankly, there was just kind of too much to kind of do and get on, but I'll try to set up for some shots tomorrow during sound check and all of that kind of stuff. Funny enough, always have those fail safes like I talked about at the beginning of this video, and this is a perfect example as to why. Two things went wrong. The first thing that went wrong was my pedal board has some kind of funky cable or something somewhere cutting high end. It still passes signal. I just knew that my Kemper sounded weird using my in-ears, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was. So then I just plugged in guitar into Kemper, and sure enough, there's something in my pedal board. Now, part of one of the fail-safes that I build in is being able to do everything from just the Kemper using the remote. So I'm only using that for this show now. So my pedal board's actually just packed away. I'm not even going to use it. And the second thing is, as we've talked about extra cables fail, there was actually a cable that I was using that at the end of rehearsal, the end just completely pulled out of it. I don't know how, but it just completely stripped out. So because of that, fortunately, there are other extra cables and things like that, and this is the day before, so it's not that big of a deal. But this is why you need to be prepared, because I am 4.5 hours away from home. I can't just run home and grab a different cable. Of course, there are guitar shops and things like that, but it's always good to bring extras and to have backups and fail-safes in place. So I'm going to go in. I need to woodshed some of these parts a little bit more since some things have changed, and I'm over on electric and stuff now. But I'll keep you guys updated on that. Alright, so it's the next morning. I practiced last night, just finished up a couple of little things, and then just hung out. Got up this morning at 5, and now I'm getting ready to go get some coffee, get some breakfast before we get rolling this morning. Have rehearsal at 7, playing 3 times this morning. We'll have a lunch break, and then have a 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock show. Between the 3 and 6, I'll have time for dinner. After the 6 o'clock show, though, I'm packing up my stuff and I'm driving home about 4 hours or so tonight. So should be home hopefully by about 11:30, 12 o'clock. It's going to be a long one, but it's going to be a good day. I'm excited. So here we go. Show's over. Damage is done. I'm packing up, going back to Birmingham tonight. I've got about a 4-hour drive, throwing this all in the car, and yeah, let's call it for that one. It's been a weird kind of week preparing for everything, and a lot of changes and equipment malfunctions and having to replan out songs and that kind of thing, but it's a really great experience. So be prepared, know your stuff. See you in the next one. Take it easy.